A broken jaw, several fingers had been cut off, and the medical examiner believed she was kept alive for about 3 days without food and water. Whomever had taken Jessica had tortured the girl. She had also been violently sexually assaulted. Because as I mentioned, she had 3 missing fingers, but they believed it wasn't like some animal had come, and removed the fingers. They knew that whoever had taken the girl had basically cut her fingers off.
Yeah, that would be hard to tell. I mean, if it's either clean cut off or chewed off. Yeah.
The body had most likely been moved about 15 feet to where it was visible from the road, and they believed this had happened within 18 hours of discovery. The body had probably been, they estimated, about 15 feet away and been moved.
I wonder why someone would do that.
Investigators believe this was a clue that someone wanted the girl's body found. Jessica is found only about 7 miles away from the family's home and only about 90 feet from Greenwell Ford Road. The family takes the news incredibly hard and blames local law enforcement for not taking the initial complaint very seriously. Bucky Brooks becomes the prime suspect. Now, he tells police he had seen her walking down the road on the morning she disappeared, but later recants and says he was having sex with his wife at that time.
Okay.
So he doesn't know where she was and he didn't see her.
Oh, yeah, I forgot I was having sex with my wife. Who even looks at what time they're having sex with their wife anyway?
Irene Brooks says she was not having sex with her husband. And Brooks just can't keep his story straight. It continues changing, with police thinking he's guilty. Can't keep his story straight. He tells them several different things. None of it's checking out. A polygraph is given to Brooks, though inadmissible. They give him the polygraph anyway, and he fails.
Yeah, so they've got the decomposition smells, hits by the dogs on his property, burning clothes, her picture found in the barn, all this stuff. But I still see why they're waiting, because once you charge someone with something, and it doesn't stick, you can't ever charge them even with that again. So
the FBI hands over the information to the state's attorney's office, who put the indictment before a grand jury. Brooks is charged with murder in 2001 and is facing the death penalty.
Well, whoever killed that poor girl should get the death penalty.
Brooks said things during the interrogation like, well, if you find my fingerprints on or near the body, I guess I just have to admit to it.
All right,
Strange.
That's what an innocent man says.
Now, during the trial, James Coulter becomes another person of interest. Brooks' defense team brought Coulter in to testify. This guy, Coulter, admitted that he had seen Jessica the night before her disappearance. His relationship with Jessica was as her drug dealer. He had sold her drugs the night before she went missing.
Oh, does it say what kind of drugs?
No.
Okay.
I'm not sure what kind of drugs.
All right, but that doesn't mean he's a bad person.
So the defense team is trying to paint this guy as the suspect. They want their guy to be found innocent.
Yeah, all they need is that one juror who thinks it might be someone else. That's not a bad route for them to go.
Yeah, so they're trying to point fingers at this guy, James Coulter. The investigation, it was just totally botched. And the court ends up ruling it a mistrial, because one of the officers who takes a stand says, well, that guy failed a polygraph.
Ah, come on, dude.
Inadmissible court completely botches the whole case. The evidence has been botched, the investigation,
the scene was
and
botched
now
from
the
the
trial.
Oh my God, these people.
The sheriff's office had placed crucial evidence like body parts that needed to be in a temperature-controlled setting in a storage building where it had not been kept frozen.
Gee, I'm sorry. This is a very inadequate law, enforcement.
Let's just give it the name. It's a fucking shit show.
It's a shit show.
It's where did these people take policing?
Yeah, oh my God.
From a correspondence school taught by a first grader? I don't know.
How would you not keep body parts in a refrigerated?
Yeah, this whole thing is just fucked from the beginning. Brooks was eventually released. The Dishons confronted the judge in open court. They're like, our daughter is getting no justice. They're very upset. The Dishons were handed over the remaining case information and evidence.
Really?
Yeah, the prosecution gives them a big box that has
here's all the stuff.
Everything in it.
Damn it. Oh, they must have learned all this from the Waynesville Police Department. No offense to anybody who works for the Waynesville Police Department.
Oh, we offend people. We don't care. Jessica's case goes cold, and the family, the whole time, I mean, they're feeling there's no justice for their daughter. In the end, it just basically tears this family apart.
Yeah, that's very common as well.
They sink into deep depression. They have no answers.
The what
Mike
ifs.
and Edna can't take the pressure, and their marriage dissolves.
That's very common, unfortunately.
From my understanding, to this day, they still don't speak to each other.
That's so sad.
A cold case detective named Hunt is brought in by the sheriff's office to work on 5 cold cases in this county.
Some other cases they fucked up.
The notoriety of Jessica's case made this female detective, which, by the way, Detective Hunt, female detective.
Okay.
So I'm thinking, okay, maybe that perspective is going to help a little bit, right? She chooses it as her first priority. She finds very little information once she starts digging through the files.
I guess so.
And has to start fresh. Jessica's parents had the evidence from Bucky's trial, which they handed over gladly. They're just trying to get some resolution.
It's probably a good thing they had it, or it'd be gone.
So while she's trying to solve this case, she finds that the defense attorneys had much more information than the police.
Okay.
The defense had hired a private detective on Bucky Brooks' behalf. In the information, she finds that Bucky Brooks had the IQ of 61. And with such a low IQ, that polygraph should have never been administered.
Okay.
Because he was not even of like a mental capacity to be able to take the polygraph. And the fact that he had been giving like conflicting stories to officers was because he had such a low IQ.
All right. Well, I mean, okay, there's that.
Which kind of blows the top off this theory that he's the guilty party.
What about the dogs hitting on the decomposition smell?
Well, there was a lot of circumstantial evidence during the trial. And then, of course, the James Coulter guy that was put as a witness, and they're trying to paint it as though he's the guilty guy.
The drug dealer, yeah.
He was never followed up on as a witness or even a person of interest. Cops never even took the time to interrogate this guy, question him.
That doesn't surprise me, because they bungled it from the beginning and in some very significant ways all the way through the trial of Bucky. And these goober cops are just like, well, it's probably that guy. Yeah, I could see them just totally screwing that up.
Coulter claimed he was in a motel room with a female on the morning Jessica went missing. A maintenance worker, years later, still employed at the motel, remembered seeing James Coulter and his girlfriend at the motel till around noon when they checked out.
Jeez, he must be a nosy old dude.
Well, this guy Coulter had quite a reputation in this town.
Ah, so he's like, oh, there's that shitbird.
Probably.
Okay.
It was not until June of 2013 that Detective Hunt gets a break in the case. An informant in Oldham County had told a detective that he knew who killed Jessica Dishon. An inmate placed in a cell with this informant, and both of them had been charged with having sex with children, by the way.
Ugh.
The informant says the person claimed he had Jessica for several days, and then he took her life. He mutilated Jessica's body to make it look like a drug dealer or a cartel had murdered her.
Jesus.
This guy was angry because Jessica was having a relationship with a boy her own age, and Jessica's murder was out of sheer jealousy. The person who allegedly killed Jessica Dishon was her uncle, Stanley Dishon.
What the hell? Are you kidding me?
And this informant knew details that had not been released to the public.
Oh, shit.
So Detective Hunt is taking this seriously. In the beginning, she was like, an informant?
Yeah, jail cell confession.
She wasn't really feeling it. She's like, these are typically fairly unreliable.
Yes.
But once details started to emerge, like the person had held her for several days, had tortured her, had mutilated the body. I mean, these were not details that had been released to the public.
Oh, wow.
She's like, this is fairly credible, it seems. She starts looking into the uncle. The story is that Jessica had been taken to this nearby barn where she was raped and tortured. Her personal items were buried underneath a fallen tree in the area near this barn or building where she had been taken.
Ooh, I wonder if it's still there.
Detective Hunt goes out. She starts digging probably 175 holes in the ground.
Just randomly
trying to
area.
find, like, kind of near the area where the body had been found, thinking she's going to be able to find some kind of clue. Jessica's brother is helping her do this. Well, as they're leaving the scene, it's pouring rain. They've been digging all day for hours and hours, trying to find something. They're driving by this old kind of abandoned area, and Jessica's brother points out that that's a building and a barn where teenagers used to party.
Uh-oh.
The detective swings in there. They go into this like barn type of area, and they start looking around. It's really dark in there. The roof has started to kind of cave in, so really kind of the only light that's coming in is from the caved in, ceiling of this barn.
And it's raining.
They're kind of looking around, and she finds a piece of material lying on the ground, and there's a few things kind of on top of it, just trash. It is a fitted sheet from Jessica's bed.
Oh my God.
The sheet matches the comforter. The detective drives to the Dishon's house. She's got this sheet. It matches the comforter. She knew she had seen the pattern before. She lifts up the comforter, and it is a missing sheet. This bed, Jessica's bed, had not been touched since the September 10th, 1999 day that the girl had gone missing.
You're kidding me.
Her parents had left her room absolutely untouched, other than investigators having kind of come in to perform their
But they didn't
search.
clear it out and change the room or anything.
No, they didn't do anything to
like
this
a
room.
shrine. That's
they
common.
left it the same way it was the day their daughter went missing.
Wow, and this is quite a bit of time later, right?
This is like 14 years later.
14 years?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Wow.
So it turns out this sheet was missing from Jessica's bed, had not been touched since the initial investigation.
That is crazy right there.
So let's talk a little bit about Stanley Dishon. He's a drifter type. He's Mike's brother. He had lived on and off for several years with the Dishon family. He had jumped from siblings' homes, basically from brother to sister, back and forth, just living with relatives over the years, and in the wake, abusing many of their children.
What the heck? God almighty.
Stanley is a pedophile who had molested several relatives, including Jessica. Stanley had lived in Mike's home from 1989 to 1996. Several victims had started being raped as early as 6 years old. Including Jessica, Stanley had molested about 4 other victims.
What? Oh my God, why do you enable this guy to bounce around? And he probably just seems like a dirtbag, I'm going to guess, if he's damn molesting kids. His own family.
Well, I think initially the relatives were not aware.
Well, yeah, I know, but
that this was happening.
I bet he's got molester energy, though, for real.
Stanley knew what time Mike and Edna went to work, what time the younger kids would get on the school bus. He lived in the home for some years. Stanley went to confront Jessica about having a new boyfriend. Jessica had threatened Stanley that if he didn't leave her alone, she was going to tell everyone that he had been raping and sodomizing her since she was a little girl.
My God.
Stanley knew if Jessica told on him, his brother Mike would likely kill him.
Good.
That's when he took Jessica to the barn, where he held her for 3 days. He tortured her, including mutilating her body, raping her, and eventually strangling the young girl.
So, yeah, now he's like, well, I'm going to kill her, but I'm still going to do my crazy, insane stuff to her, like full blown, like probably stuff he's fantasized about, the freaking weirdo.
Now, initially, Mike couldn't accept that his brother would have killed his child.
Well, yeah, he's been letting this guy live with him.
But as more evidence piles up, Mike finally knew it was true and asked for the death penalty.
Yeah.
Stanley admitted his guilt. So in addition to the murder of Jessica, Stanley Dishon was also convicted of molesting 5 relatives between 1973 and 2002.
That's so disgusting.
So for fucking decades, this guy was molesting children.
Over and over.
And relatives.
Over and over. Ruining their lives. Traumatizing them.
In 2015, 56-year-old Stanley Dishon accepted a plea deal that pronounced him guilty of manslaughter in the death of his niece, Jessica Dishon. The deal says Dishon will serve 20 years in prison without an opportunity to appeal his sentence.
What the fuck?
Dishon accepted an Alford plea that reduced the original first-degree murder charge. And if you're not familiar, in an Alford plea, the defendant does not admit guilt, but recognizes there's enough evidence for conviction.
And that in itself seems like a freaking oxymoron to me.
The deal also included charges of incest, rape, and sodomy in 4 other cases, all scheduled to go to trial in 2015.
Jesus Christ. How in the hell did they let that man get away with an Alford plea?
The kidnapping charge in Jessica's case was also dismissed.
This man has been molesting his own relatives for decades. Literally decades. Ruining them, traumatizing them over